Question 1. In what ways does your media product use, develop, or challenge forms and conventions of real media products? To start off, we're going to talk about the definition of a crime film. The definition is, films which focus on the lives of criminals. The stylistic approach to a crime film varies from realistic portrayals of real-life figures to the far-fetched evil doings of imaginary arch-villains. Criminal acts are almost always glorified in these movies. So now we'll talk about the key codes and conventions. Key props typically used include illegal substances such as drugs, which tend to be expensive and there tends to be a large amount of them. Usually A-class drugs like cocaine, which the police will think is a big enough case to trace. Other key props include knives, which connote a sense of danger, and guns, which gives the audience an uncomfortable and unsettling feeling. However, it's a schema of a crime film, so something we typically think of and associate with a crime film based on previous knowledge. So drug dealers might drive a cheaper, more efficient car like a Corsa, just generally a cheap, sort of bad-looking car. And the detectives, like in Layer Cake, will drive a more expensive, smart-looking car. Often duos will drive cars like white BMWs and fancy-looking cars. The protagonist, or the criminal, tends to wear things like a tracksuit, trainers, hoodie, more of the sort of chav, rough-looking look. These are usually associated with gangs or gangsters. Maybe these days you'd call it roadmen. Their costumes are used to portray their socio-economic group or class, so D/E and probably lower class, and this will emphasise the fact that they have little money and therefore cannot afford nice clothing. It's also a key convention of gritty realism, often linked with economic problems. Their social grades, E/D, suggest low income and therefore maybe connotes unemployment and stereotypically a poor background. The police officers or detectives wear either police uniform to show they have authority over the criminals and makes it obvious to the audience who they are within the film. The location of the film is generally in a city with high crime rates. However, in a gritty realism, this might be in a sort of run-down council area. These are some other key conventions of a crime film. This is our production company logo we made ourselves. I think it's successful and it uses the conventions of a real media product because it fades in and out, so it's almost like an animation, and it's monochromatic, so it's black and white and really simplistic, which is often the most effective. And the name Key Cut Productions also sounds much like a large-scale conglomerate, like one of the Hollywood majors, rather than something that sounds a lot more obscure and specific to a niche audience. If we had the available software and were taught the right skill set, we would probably animate our own production company, and if we had longer time, and also if the duration of our opening sequence could be longer, we would probably extend this by creating a more visually appealing production company logo, probably animated rather than just a logo fading in and out of the screen, looking a lot more high budget, and we'd probably extend the duration of this. The first part does not only use conventions to the crime genre, but an opening sequence in general, because it's introducing you to the character, the protagonist, which we can tell immediately by Bart getting the first provenance, and we can also tell that it's conventional because it's showing the key location at the start. The fact that we can't see Bart's face to start with creates enigmas and intrigues the audience. As we continue to watch the opening sequence, we notice that the lighting is low-key or cool tone, which is yet another key convention we have used within our sequence. The titles are also conventional and follow a similar pattern to Layer Cake, with modern, simple sans serif fonts layered on top of the sequence. We can see the whole of Bart's outfit through the use of an establishing shot. His outfit is all black, which is a typical connotation of crime costumes, and the hoodie underneath his jacket and his trainers represent a stereotypical teenage gangster involved in trouble. We've challenged this by creating a white character as your stereotypical gangster rather than a black person who would stereotypically be more likely to be associated with gang crimes. His costume also represents his social grade of D/E and him being of lower class. We've incorporated modern technology in iPhone, which might represent Bar as a typical teenager, and we've also recorded the song here so you can see what the song is called whilst watching the opening sequence, which might show you Bart's music influences. The hood was yet another key convention used, which is associated with crime and carries the connotation of the fear of the unknown and danger. Again, low-key lighting has been used and you cannot see Bart's face, creating mystery. The urban location is conventional because this is where there are high crime rates. The urban setting has also developed our final product's conventions by carrying conventions of a gritty realism through the use of a rough, run-down area. We've also developed the conventions of crime by using even more parts of gritty realism, such as the costume of Rory wearing the hoodie and hooded jacket and the soundtrack, although these do tend to cross over anyways. Another convention we've used is the use of the detective watching over him. This has been through the influence of another crime thriller blockbuster, Layer Cake, where there is basically an undercover cop watching someone else. The CCTV effect is also conventional and is the influence from Snatch's opening scene where there's a CCTV watching the security in Antwerp. Security is conventional as it's involved with the police and the authority of a country.
I spit bars, slap flames from my chest, trying to make gains and not gains for my reps. Ask Coco.
We used the forms and conventions of a real crime film because the dialogue is conventional to the drug dealer because of the calm and blunt manner he speaks in. He never mentions the words drugs or cocaine, which shows he is serious and aware of his surroundings. The fact that he is so wary is a strong sign that he has supplied before and is experienced within this drug industry. Bart's dialogue is conventional and represents a stereotypical teen because he sounds inexperienced and just like a teenager dependent on his mother, especially when he says, "Told my mum I went to the shop." He does not answer the drug supplier rudely because he knows that messing with him would just be dangerous. The key mise-en-scène or props used have been particularly paid attention to through the use of baggies of flour as cocaine and the old Nokia phone used as a dealer's phone. Drugs are key microcodes within crime films. Drugs can help the opening sequence be quickly established from other genres as they are key conventions and illegal substances. The misuse and sale of these illegal substances is breaking the law and acting as an even bigger crime than being an actual user yourself. Typical soundtracks used build tension through starting off quietly and build up tension particularly through the use of string instruments, such as a violin creating tension, or a really energetic, fast-paced song like the soundtrack in Snatch. The suspenseful music is in sync with a person's heartbeat, so it makes the audience feel what the character is feeling. They often start with strange diegetic sounds, leading into a non-diegetic soundtrack. Although we have challenged some forms of our genre through using grime, it's effective because it matches the action of Bart walking. Due to using grime, we also chose to use some royalty-free conventional music within our opening sequence, as well as the tension-building music used when the detective is watching Bart. This music is a clear indication to the audience that something bad is about to happen. It uses Todorov's clear narrative theory by starting off with an equilibrium where everything is okay to start with. Bart is walking down to the underground and hasn't been caught, and then happens a disequilibrium, which continues as you watch the film, continuing after the opening sequence. Our film is also very common because it uses omniscient narration where the audience follows the storyline from different characters' perspectives. Our story also gives narrative pleasure through having to solve mysteries which have been created through using the enigmas in our opening sequence, such as why Bart is drug dealing at such a young age and why is he getting involved with this, and so on. Titles are conventional throughout because they are in the same order as other blockbusters such as Casino Royale, where the production company comes first, then the starring characters, after this the producer, executive producer, etc. Although they are not entirely in the same order as some films' titles, the titles themselves are conventional. We've challenged some of these conventions by having the title last. We think it works because it's such a big budget film and will make a clear split between the opening sequence and the rest of the film. However, we're not sure if it makes the end of the opening sequence feel too much like a trailer.